I'm not talking about how you feel. I'm talking about how I feel. Me, a black woman in this country.
But not in this city.
And I will run, and if you want
Look,
me
I'm a New Yorker, not in this city. You cannot say that.
I got a law degree, a master's, and 2 bachelors. Probably more education than all of y'all added up together at this table,
Fine
right?
by me.
And I have always been the least paid person on payroll at every institution I have worked in. And it's not
Even
because...
in the White House?
Even in the White House.
Well, whose fault is that?
Thanks, Obama.
If race is not the issue, then why is DEI mentioned every
5
single day as a solution to every single problem that faces this?
Because of how pervasive it is, and how hateful it is to an actual conservative ideological view.
But do you think it is true that all of America's ills, from the plane crash to whatever it is, wildfires, due to
The majority of people don't think DEI is a good thing. Bringing it up is a winning issue, so why wouldn't you?
DEI for real?
I think that if you believe in the fundamental principle of America, which is that we guarantee everybody an equal chance, not an equal outcome, but an equal chance, then trying to go around that principle, conservatives don't believe in it. And most people who believe in America don't believe in it, number one. Number two, the concept of not hiring the best person for the job in government or anywhere else has been repeatedly rejected by the American people, the Supreme Court, and everything else. And so
what do you get? So I guess what I'm saying is, like, if that is the case, then people are questioning the actual qualifications of many people Donald Trump hired for jobs.
Yeah.
So do you think that he actually...
Why?
Because Elon Musk doesn't even go here.
Do you think that he...
That's why.
This is the question people are asking. This is the question that Ryan Clark just asked. Did Donald Trump, for Health and Human Services, find the person with the best expertise to address
this is not a.
When it comes to the Department of Defense, did he find the person with the best expertise to address those issues, or did he just find people who he liked?
Political appointees have one qualification. They serve at the pleasure of the president because the president believes that person's going to best carry out their agenda. That is the only qualification.
And to protect and defend the Constitution.
And that is the only. That's the only qualification for a political appointee.
Competency doesn't matter.
Of course they're competent. Of course he believes they're competent. If he didn't believe they were competent, he wouldn't appoint them.
You're not being fair with that. You're not being fair with that response. She asked you a very simple question: yes or no. Look at the appointees. Do you believe DEI had anything to do with those appointees? Do you believe they were qualified? Do you think they would protect and defend the Constitution that represents all of the people of the United States of America?
I think Mark Rubio.
I think you all have literally no idea how the government works, is what I actually
do.
I
do. I served in it at a higher level than anyone here.
A couple people at this table have served in the government.
Yeah, me too.
Including for this former president.
I just want to say that I think the premise that DEI exists, and therefore the people that got the opportunity, perhaps because of DEI, are not qualified, is a flawed premise.
Correct.
And I think that is what is so frustrating.
That's the argument that the right's been making the whole time. Minorities on the right hate DEI because it just makes people assume, oh, you must be a DEI hire.
The argument around DEI. We know in this country, historically, and even today, there are still injustices in this country based on race, based on gender, based on ideology.
Based on who your daddy played
golf with. Yes.
Okay, that happens.
No one ever brings up looks, but looks is the #1 thing that people discriminate on. If you're good looking, doesn't matter what race you are, doesn't matter what gender you are, you're going to do better.
It happens every single day. We know that.
But it happens every single day all over the planet.
That's
the
what I'm
planet
saying.
Earth. It is human nature. It is human in every single. And we're the best at it. We're the best at trying to.
Donald Trump's our president.
Arthur, I guess that's exactly my point. I agree with you. I think that it is true that there have been preferences not for merit since the dawn of time, and that in this country right now, the same people who are going after DEI, which is about giving opportunities to people who have been historically marginalized, are just as willing to hire their friends.
Is that what equity means? Giving opportunity or guaranteeing outcomes?
No, it's giving access.
Because that's what equity means. It's a difference. There's a difference between equality and equity.
No, it's giving access.
I just want to answer his question because I think this is
talent
super,
and hard work
Scott,
give you
I think this
access?
is incredibly important for you to understand and for everybody to understand at home, okay? This is where I think we go crossways on this issue. You just asked the question, what does equity mean? Does it mean equality or does it mean access to opportunities? And conservatives want to define it a particular way, but you have to acknowledge, I'm asking you to acknowledge that people who believe in DEI do not define it that way. They do not define it as equality.
I think they define it as trying to guarantee outcomes, and I think they define it as trying to punish people they don't like.
Scott, that's
politically wrong race, wrong.
How is that not true? It doesn't need to exist if it wasn't true.
More of the middle of the country who's not hyper-partisan on this issue. I think that people generally think diversity is a virtue. It makes businesses better. It makes institutions better. But they also don't like when you have companies or organizations that are spending huge amounts of money to stand up DEI office. As an example, Fairfax County Public Schools, $400,000 spent on a DEI office, but kids are not reading at the levels that they should. They're not advancing at the levels that they should. It's not the issue
But were
of
they
diversity.
doing that before the office was stood up?
Well, no, and probably not. And so I'm not saying the connection.
So maybe implementing DEI might actually help people have a better
But it's not an argument against DEI. It's how much of our resources are we actually putting?
But that's not that's not the way the conversation is being posed in America today. The conversation about DEI and woke and all of that sounds about marginalized Black and brown people who already are threatened seem to be threatened in this community, in this society, and they're not getting the same opportunities. It was the same thing with affirmative action. Went to UCLA. They got rid of affirmative action. Everyone said you got in because of affirmative action. When I graduated, affirmative action didn't take my test. Affirmative action didn't help me get to where I'm at today. It gave me access that I didn't have based on the opportunity that I lacked because of the circumstances I was born into, which had nothing to do with me, but the country in which we live in.
Right, but that kept other people from taking that spot. Does she not understand that there's a reason Yale can no longer do the affirmative action? Because they were discriminating against Asian students. You got access, but it came at the expense of someone else.
The reality is...
Have you seen the test scores of UCLA Medical, by the way?
My point being, Scott, is that everyone doesn't have the same access. People like to hire their friends. They like to hire the people that they like to be around.
Do you think they like to hire the best people for the job?
But I also think around the idea of diversity...
No, Donald Trump hired all of his friends.
The issue in this country right now is we live in different realities.
That's right.
I live in a reality where I know I do not have the same opportunity as you. I know I don't.
And you know
and
that
I know
too.
what Scott.
And you know that.
Let me.
She's sitting on a CNN panel with Scott right next to him as an equal, and she is saying this.
Let me just tell you about me.
I'm gonna let you finish, but I want to answer this.
I'm not talking about how you feel. I'm talking about how I feel. Me, a Black woman in this country.
But not in this city.
And I will run, and if you want
Look,
me
I'm a New Yorker, not in this city. You cannot say that. You can't say that in this city.
I'm not talking about New York. I'm talking about actually
let her finish.
Okay,
Let her finish. Let her finish.
I got a law degree, a master's, and 2 bachelors. Probably more education than all y'all added up together at this table,
Fine
right?
by me.
And I have always been the least paid person on payroll at every institution I have worked in. And it's not
Even
because...
in the White House?
Even in the White House.
Well, whose fault is that? I don't think he worked for George W. or Trump.
Well, guess
So the White House sent her an email saying with a list of how much everybody made? I mean, she's so full of shit.
wasn't what happened when I was there. DEI.
Scott.
Look,
I'm head Scott.
Look,
you're my friend. I respect you tremendously. I think you're probably the smartest operative in the Democratic Party, and they should listen to you more. That's number one. Number two, you and I share a comparable background. We're both from the Midwest. We both come from middle-class families, lower middle-class families maybe. I actually think we share a lot of similarities in our journey. But I think you made it, and you are the most respected voice often at every room or every table you're in, not because of anything other than your talent and your work ethic. And that's all anybody ever is asking for, is for people with talent and work ethic to make it. And that's what I see in you. That's how I see you.
But let me tell you something about my story and my family's story, is that we have faced discrimination. I have faced discrimination. I just said I was the least paid person, even in this moment sometimes.
Prove it.
To my counterparts. It is just the reality of the country we live in. And I'm not saying, I do believe I'm qualified. I know I'm qualified. You won't ever tell me I'm not qualified. But the system that I live in doesn't matter about my qualifications.
I don't agree,
think we're
because
there
when
in 2025.
Oh, come
I don't think we're there in 2025.
You can't deny
That's just not true. That's just not true.
There is a mountain of evidence that suggests that you are wrong. Okay, let's just
Again,
take Ashley.
I'm a New Yorker, so I'm jaded. I have the Attorney General as a black woman. The mayor's a black man. The head of the Senate is a black man.
Okay, New York is a small representation.
Well, small.
of the
New York is
United
not that
States
small.
of America.
Politics. Let me talk about
Every judge I
numbers.
appear before
Because
is either a woman or a person of
Ashley
color.
just gave an anecdote, but the numbers also show black women are one of the most educated demographics in this country and one of the least paid. Why would that make any sense?
Why would that make any sense? And don't talk to me about the judges you stand before. Talk to me about the theory.
Hold on.
Talk to me about the world in which we live in and
Let's
the
look at
system
the
that
United
we live
States
in.
Supreme Court. How could you say we're not going to look at that from the top? to the bottom. And I'm talking about the legal
New
system
York is a more
that I live in.
progressive
And we
state.
just got a black woman.
Hold up. Let me.
We just got a black woman on
Okay, but you had a black man from the 70s.
You brought up the Supreme
Or
Court.
the 60s.
One.
Did you know, Arthur, that there are many...
Hold on. What percentage of it does it represent the United States of America?
Why does it matter?
Why
So we
is it
gotta
so
go by
hard?
Guys,
numbers?
one at a
Why,
time.
but
why
guys,
is it so
so
hard?
we gotta-
one
we
at
can
a-
only
one at a
acknowledge
time,
what
please.
she just said.
can
Why
only
is it
have
so
30%
Why
hard?
is it just
of
one?
justice.
Why is there only one Italian American?
No, but why is
Why?
it so hard for you to acknowledge what she just said about
I-
black
I
women
didn't-
being the most educated
I
and
did
the most
acknowledge it. I said that's
And
not
you-
my experience.
Okay,
If that
but
was the
we're
case,
because
we
you're
would have
not a
more
black
black women on
woman.
I thought there's 3 black women and then there's 1 white woman.
No, I'm a New Yorker, and
But
that's
New
not
York
the way
is
it
not
is in New
representative
York.
of the rest
You're
of America.
correct.
That's
You are
also what's
correct.
It's also the
important.
most diversity in the country.
Well, that's exactly.
Like,
So of
why
course
wouldn't
there's
it
more
be? I think it's a
representation
little
in
more
women.
representative.
And Scott, I think if you really see you said something very beautiful. This is your friend. You guys share a lot of the same values. You guys think alike. You guys are literally friends off air. You text. You have good conversations. There is the yes and in that. There is something that says to me that you know what she's saying is true. You think she's smart. You know that she's smart. She's more educated than mostly everyone at this table. And so what she's saying isn't a lie. What she's saying is a real life experience. And so why is it so hard to understand why something like diversity, equity, inclusion needs to be a part of what we do in a system that never even acknowledged a group of people, never saw us as a human commodity? And now here we are years later asking for some simple rights, some simple civilities. She's asking to be paid like you get paid. She's asking to be acknowledged like you get acknowledged. And she knows that that is not the case because she is a black woman.
She had a high-ranking position in the
Hey,
White House of
dear
the United
friend,
States of America.
Dear friend,
she
there
is one
are-
of the most
dear-
celebrated political operatives in the
Let's talk
country.
about there's
you know how hard I had to work to get that?
Do you know
that?
how
We all
hard?
have
Do
to
you
work
know
hard.
how
You know how
hard
hard
the
I had to
son
work
of a
to get through
garbage
law
man had to
school?
work at it? So I'm just telling you.
I'm not saying that, but
Talent and work
we're
ethic
not
are
saying
everything,
we're
and that's
not,
why I think
it's
you're
not
here.
True. It's just not true.
So
It's just
look,
not true.
The other thing is the access to opportunity is. I know you don't want to think that that is true, but access to opportunity is
And
what
that's the word.
DEI is supposed to address. And not just when it comes to race, although race is important, but when it comes to women, when it comes to people with disabilities,
That's right,
when it
Brian.
comes to people from different socioeconomic brackets, from rural parts of the country.
I think that's
and
the
other-
biggest issue. There's different socioeconomic brackets
now
more
we're
than
trying
race
to
and gender.
say, now we're trying to say that everything is equal just because I say it is, even though all the evidence.
Who said everything is equal?
Well, that's literally
said that
we're like
everything is
we're already living in a meritocratic society, is what Scott and his colleagues want to say, when that's actually factually not true.
do you not think
Factually, it's
everything
not
is
true.
But I
equal?
think it's
I
generally.
don't think everything-
I think
of
it's
course not.
generally
then
true.
so actually, okay,
But I think,
okay,
I think
then
it
let's
should,
talk.
it'll seek its own level. I don't think the government should be telling us to
Arthur,
seek
Okay,
its
but
own level.
but you
DEI is
literally
not
earlier
about, hold on,
just said-
DEI is not about the government. Y'all are talking to private companies
Yes,
and telling them you can't
can't do
operate
it. It's
about
the
both.
way you
I
want to
think,
operate.
but Arthur,
But
you
it is
literally
about
just said, I don't think it will seek itself out because you literally just said human nature. That's how we operate.
That's
so
right.
sometimes,
Yes,
which is why the
I
civil
think
rights
it's more
movement
so-
was
I
so
think it's more
important.
socioeconomic
And
than it is
this is why, like, when they
racial.
talk about like canceling the Department of Education, why they talk about the federal government. The reason why the federal government was so important, particularly for Black people to seek justice in this country, is because it was the one bastion of hope that people had when states took control and they had discriminatory practice laws.
Okay, but
the
that was a long
Supreme
time
Court.
ago now.
What? How long ago? Tell me how long ago was that?
The main function of the Department of Education is financing. There's a chart that shows the year that the Department of Education was created and student debt and tuition costs, and they shoot up exactly in tandem with the year that the Department of Education was created. It is a horrible institution.
How long ago was that?
We gotta go. We gotta go, but it was not that long ago.
I know.
Cut the show. I'm done.